So I finally played the open beta of the finals. I'm saying finally because I have been waiting for the open beta for a while, since the first time that I saw the game. And it's good, but in all honesty, I don't really see that the game is gonna have a huge lifespan if some things don't change. So let's talk about it. The Finals is a new competitive first-person movement shooter developed by Embark Studios and published by Nexon. And if you don't know, Embark Studios is comprised of the developers that left DICE, or in other words, the developers that worked on Battlefield back when it was an okay game. It is currently in an open beta phase, and if you like these kinds of games, you can try it out right now on Steam. It is supposed to be a free-to-play game on release, with a classic monetization system with microtransactions for cosmetics and emotes, and it will also contain a Battle Pass system. It is currently unknown if you will be able to unlock everything by just playing the game. The game itself is a weird combination of movement shooters such as Apex Legends with a twist of Battlefield Bad Company's destructible environments, but it's not trying to replicate any of the things that those games do so perfectly, which could be an issue in the long run, but we'll talk about that in a bit. It is a team-based game, but not too many games have 4 teams of 3 players competing over a couple of objectives on the map, so honestly it's an interesting change of pace. There is a couple of different game modes, but they are all way too similar for me to talk about them in depth. Basically, in quick play, you either kill people for their coins, or you kill people for their coins, and you cash those coins in on vaults that are randomly spawning across the map. And then you have the tournament mode, where you need to grab a cash box and bring it to one of the randomly spawned vaults, at which point you will need to protect the vault from other teams for a certain amount of time. But all of those game modes have their own issues. As an example, there is no in-game chat, there is VoIP, but I honestly don't know if it's working or not. I guess that most people either don't know that you need to press K to join the voice chat, or they don't want to do it. But then again, I was playing on EU servers, and it could be that people just don't know English that well, so they don't even bother joining the voice chat. Now the problem with that is that there is no coordination between you and your teammates, and it seems that most people do not understand what the objectives of the game modes are. So I had teammates running around for the duration of the whole match with 20,000 coins on them, without even trying to cash them in, because they either didn't care or didn't know what they needed to do. But having at least a team-based chat could potentially solve this issue, because currently if a player on your team is new to the game, there is no way to tell them what they need to do. So solo queuing queuing is a nightmare. It's much worse than Rainbow Six Siege or Overwatch, and trust me, I'm plat and diamonds in those games. And I got there by solo queuing, but in the finals it's really hard to win unless you're playing with experienced players or with your friends. The next issue with the tournament mode is that you need to protect the vault for a very long time, and you will surely get attacked by the other 3 teams while you're doing that. Now the issue with that is that you don't get anything for protecting the vault. The whole time you're there, you won't be earning anything. The last team that holds the vault for the duration of the last few seconds will get all the spoils, which basically makes the task of bringing the cash to the vault and protecting said vault a pain in the ass because it's impossible to hold it, and it's simply smarter to wait it out until the timer on the vault is all the way down to a few seconds and then try to steal the money from the team that is holding it at that point. And yes, you do get some money for grabbing the money box and taking it to the vault, but if your team gets wiped, you lose 30% of that money. So continuously fighting over a vault that you simply can't hold will basically make you lose all the money that you got from the money box at the start. So even though the idea is good, the execution simply isn't. So instead, what the developers should have done was giving the players that are holding the vault a constant stream of money for their efforts, and whoever is holding the vault when the timer runs out gets like 20% more money bonus for the effort, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Because currently, the only way to win in the tournament mode is to be the last team that went after the vault, and it's a game of chance, basically, because you might just take too long and the vault timer might run out before you finish stealing it. So as I've said in the intro, it's a good game, but there are a lot of issues, and I mostly talk about the issues in the end of my videos, but that's impossible to do with this one. And no, it's not because I'm a hater and I'm hating on the game, like it's not that, it's because I want the game to be great, and that's why I'm saying this, because we're currently in a beta phase, and this is when you got, like, some people, Jesus fucking Christ, every time I do one of these, especially when it's an open beta kind of a thing, I have my input and there are some things that need to be fixed, and then people are like, oh, but it's in beta. And then if it doesn't get fucking fixed, then what? Jesus Christ, sorry about this. Graphically, the game looks really good and it's very aesthetically pleasing, and honestly it reminds me of a combination of 2 games, Mirror's Edge and Dirty Bomb, or in other words, it has clean aesthetics of both games. The only issue that I had with the game is that I had a ton of dropped frames, some freezes, and even some input lag for no reason. And it's not my PC, because I have a water-cooled 4090, 64 gigs of DDR5, and a 7950X, and the game is installed on an M.2 SSD. So what I'm saying is that I'm getting up to 600 frames per second in games like Overwatch or Rainbow Six Siege, and I never had any obvious frame drops or input lag in those games. So simply put, the game is still not optimized. Now the reason for this could be that the game still doesn't have any game-ready drivers, or it could be a memory leak, or maybe the developers simply didn't get to the point of optimizing the game. I don't really know, but it's just weird seeing my beast of a PC struggling to run a competitive shooter. Don't get me wrong, most of the time the game runs pretty smoothly, but this is an issue that needs to be resolved before the launch of the game. On the other hand, the sound design and the music are great. The music is inspired by retro 80s style synthwave music, and it just hypes you up before the game starts. A nice touch is that the vault is also playing the music when you come close to it. The hosts that are running the game show that you're competing in are also incredible, and they tend to hype you up too. Not only that it's a good idea and it works well, it's also very informative, because the hosts will tell you if a team gets wiped or when they respawn, or if there is a player that is carrying a ton of money on him. But the sound engineering or programming leaves a lot to be desired. I've had people shooting right next to me with their guns sounding like they're being fired from far away in the distance and to the side. It's not a constant issue, but when it happens, it's very noticeable. Now let's talk about the main thing, or the gameplay. There are 3 types of characters that you can choose from: light, medium, and heavy, and by playing the game you can unlock different weapons, gadgets, and abilities for those characters. So as an example, the light class is a small but really nimble little character, and by default the light class has a grappling hook that will help you traverse the map much faster. Of course, instead of that ability, you can unlock a cloaking device or an evasive dash, which honestly I didn't try out. The medium class has less mobility but has either a healing gun, a turret, or a recon sensor. And then you have the heavy class, which is the biggest and the slowest class out of all of them, but he can either punch through walls or have different types of shields. Now the problem that is apparent here is that those classes are not very balanced. The first and the biggest issue is that your character gets only one gun, and the reload times for this kind of game are simply too long. Now some people are saying that the time to kill in this game is too long, and while that may be true, I understand why it's like that. It makes you want to play with your team a bit more, because if all three of you are focusing the same guy, he will get deleted almost instantly. But the issue is that the game doesn't really let you make real plays. You will never be able to team wipe as a solo player, like you can in games like Rainbow Six Siege, Apex Legends, or even Overwatch.
Meteor strike!
Not the first, not the last.
Hello.
Jesus. Good job, guys.
Good job.
The classic good job, guys, when you simply roll the other team. Yeah, that was a good team effort, guys. Well done. I did not 1v5, all good.
Instead, what happens in the finals is that you will need to trade rounds with the enemy, and basically face tank all the bullets, just hoping that you will have a better aim than the other guy. And once you kill that one guy, you're basically low HP and out of ammo in the only gun that you have. And if you're playing as a light class and you're trading bullets with a heavy, there's pretty much no chance to kill him unless the other guy never played an FPS game in his life before. And even if you're better at clicking heads than the other players, you will still get decimated by a team that is sticking together. No matter how many grenades you throw at them, they will always win. And the lack of a secondary weapon is just a shame, because sometimes you will need just a couple of more rounds to kill a player, and then you'll either have to wait for the long-ass reload animation, or you'll need to switch to the grenades and hope that those will hit them before they kill you. I can't tell you how many times this happened to me. And don't get me started on the melee. It either doesn't work or it deals no damage, so don't even try using it. Speaking of grenades and gadgets, it's not a keybind to throw them, or in other words, grenades are not bound to G. You will first need to switch the grenades and then throw them. It's the same with most of the abilities. If you want to place a turret, you will need to switch to it and then place it in a spot where you want it, facing the way you want it. And if you're playing as a heavy and you want to bash through walls or into an enemy, timing it is really difficult because you get animation locked for a straight second before the ability even starts. And most of this just breaks the flow of the gameplay. So what I'm saying is, if your team is not sticking together, there is no chance of you winning. And that is why you will hear very opposing opinions on this whole thing. You either have streamers and YouTubers that played with friends that were working as a team, or you have players like me that did both and simply dislike the feeling of not being able to make huge plays like I'm used to in a competitive game, like in this Rainbow Six Siege game where I was on defense and my whole team died, so I had to improvise.
One friendly remaining. You have been spotted. 1 on 4 remaining.
Jesus Christ. Where is he?
Op 4
Nice.
This is how we do it. And you can say it's a skill issue, but even if you hit headshots in the finals, you will not have enough ammo in your magazine to kill a whole team on your own, even if you completely outplay them. So naturally, a meta has evolved in the game, where most people are playing medium classes, because it still gives you some mobility, but you have a higher health pool than the light class. So you will be able to trade shots with the enemies, and then on top of that, you will be able to heal each other. Honestly, this is a huge throw-off for me, because it makes you only play the meta and nothing else, which beats the point of the whole game. I mean, whenever there's a meta in a game, it becomes a huge issue, and if it's not balanced out and fixed immediately, the game basically dies out. As an example, you would think that the light class will be the hardest hitting because it doesn't have enough HP to trade in a fight. But even if you take the sniper, you will still need to hit 2 body shots on a light class and a couple of headshots on a heavy, which works in games like Overwatch because the teams are always balanced out, and there's only one team to think about. And if you're fighting a tank as a light class or a support, you still have mobility or different abilities to get out of dodge or win the fight. The issue is that the finals can get super hectic with 4 teams fighting over the same point, and the only thing that you can do at that point is to run away. Speaking of characters, the thing that I noticed with successful competitive games is that they all have different characters with different abilities, and this is done because of 2 reasons. First reason is obviously that people get attached to certain characters and the gameplay that they bring, and they main those characters no matter what, until they get as good as they can with those characters. And the second reason is to give the other players the opportunity to make a split-second decision of how to approach the enemy. So after you see that character, you have just enough time to engage or disengage him, especially if you've seen him using his cooldowns, because just by seeing them, you will know what their special abilities or weapons are. This is also true for most tactical shooters like Squad. Once you learn the character models, you will know if a silhouette that you're seeing is a machine gunner or, let's say, a squad leader. As an anti-tank role, you will know if you're equipped to kill a tank or if you're only good against APCs. So naturally, you will not engage a main battle tank if you're not equipped to fight it, unless you want to go back to the respawn screen. But in the finals, if you see a heavy, you can't know if he has a machine gun, a sledgehammer, or a flamethrower until he uses it on you. There is also no way to know if he has an extra shield or if his special ability is to break walls until he uses his ability. So what I'm saying is, you will not know if you should stay at range or fight them up close. So basically the decisions are made after the engagement has already started. But if you run or try to hide to reload, the health regen is again, well, too slow. And you will need to be out of the fight for a good 5 to 10 seconds to fully regen your health, unless you have another player healing you. Then he will probably out-heal all the damage that you're taking from the other team, which is always annoying no matter what game you're playing. And you can say, well, yeah, why just not focus the healers, Grumpy? But the issue is that you already engaged the first player, and you used up most of your ammo. Switching to another target mid-fight is simply not a solution. The only thing that you could do at that point is to run. So what I'm trying to say here is that there's a reason why most popular games give you a ton of different, yet very recognizable characters that have different weapons and abilities. And since the finals doesn't want to go down that route, the developers should lower the time to kill or balance things out so it's not that easy for the players to form a new meta. And there's another issue that we need to talk about. Before the match starts, you do not see the map where you're going to be fighting. You see it, but only after you locked in your character. So in some game modes, like in the tournament mode, you lock in your character and your equipment before the game starts just to see that you have a terrible loadout for that map. As an example, I chose a light class with a sniper rifle just to see that it's mostly a close quarters map and that it's super foggy. So standing on the rooftops wasn't going to work either. One time I chose a heavy character with a sledgehammer as a primary weapon just to get a very open map where even the areas that are indoors are basically open spaces, which again rendered my loadout completely useless. So that needs to be changed too. And in the end, the destructible environments are amazing and they give you a lot of strategic opportunities, like blowing up the floor below the vault so you can steal the money. But if you play this game for a couple of days, you probably had at least one game where a vault was buried under the rubble of a collapsed building. And even though you won a team fight, you just couldn't get to it. And I don't know what to think or say about this. It's not even an issue. I actually like that the game works like that. But after the pileup of all the issues that I have already mentioned, this was just frustrating. Even though it's actually pretty cool that the other team did that. But all in all, it's a fun little game. And I'm hoping that at least some, if not all of these issues, will be addressed before the game releases. Because I really want to have a new competitive game to play. And this one has a lot of potential. But honestly, after 4 days of playing it to collect footage, I really don't have a drive to play it anymore, and that's a huge issue, and that is how games like Dirty Bomb died. So in the end, even though scoring a beta is pretty stupid, I still want to score this game. So I'll give this open beta a score of 5 out of 10 Grumplings, because it's good but it's nowhere close to being exceptional, and I'm hoping that we will see improvements with the full release or the next open beta. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and please like, subscribe, share, and all of that things. And if you want to support me, you can support me through Patreon or join button on YouTube. The Patreon link is down in the description of the video. And yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye. Mwah. Ciao.